Evan wasn't the kind of person who enjoyed being on camera. He preferred the quiet glow of his computer screen, the hum of his equipment, and the rhythm of editing late into the night. But live streaming had become the new standard for anyone trying to grow an audience, and he knew he had to adapt. His channel wasn't flashy. No over-the-top pranks, no viral stunts. Just urban exploration, a niche community fascinated by his calm, methodical way of uncovering abandoned places. Factories, hospitals, schools long since forgotten. His commentary was measured, his presence almost soothing. People said they watched him not just for the exploration, but for his voice, steady and deliberate, as if he were guiding them through a dream. But dreams had shadows, and soon, so would his stream. The night it began, Evan was in his studio, a spare bedroom converted into his creative cave. His desk was a neat chaos of cables, microphones, cameras, and monitors. On the main screen, the streaming software ran smoothly, capturing the feed from his camera. He leaned forward, adjusting the lighting. Behind him, the faint glow of a lamp cast long shadows across the wall. "All right," he muttered to himself. Test run before the real deal. He clicked go live on the private setting. No audience. Just him, the camera, and the software. He watched himself appear on screen with a 2-second delay, moving his hand and then seeing it echoed on the monitor. A little uncanny, but normal. He adjusted the mic, tapped it lightly, and the sound carried through. Check. Check. 1, 2. For the first 10 minutes, everything behaved as expected. The camera quality was crisp, the lighting decent, and his voice clear. He leaned back in his chair, satisfied. But then, out of the corner of his eye, something flickered on the stream. He leaned forward, rewound, paused. On screen, his reflection had tilted its head slightly to the right. In reality, he hadn't moved at all. He stared, heart knocking against his ribs. Maybe a glitch? Compression errors, sometimes distorted frames. But the angle of the head wasn't just digital noise. It was deliberate, subtle, human. He raised his hand in front of his face. His reflection followed. Perfectly. But when he dropped his hand, the stream version lingered a moment longer, fingers twitching before relaxing. A cold shiver crawled up his arms. Okay, he rubbed his face. Latency issue. Just a bug. Calm down. He reset the stream, restarted the software, rebooted the computer. The reflection behaved again, mirroring him without delay. He told himself he was overtired. Too much caffeine, not enough sleep. He shut everything down, crawled into bed, and convinced himself it had been nothing. But the next night, it happened again. This time, he went live for real. A small audience of 70 viewers tuned in, flooding the chat with greetings. "Hey guys," Evan said, voice steady. "Thanks for joining. Just testing the new setup tonight. Should be smoother streaming from here on out." He gave a casual wave. On the monitor, his reflection waved back. The chat scrolled quickly. Yo, did anyone else see that lag? Looked weird. His hand moved twice. Oh, Evan's stomach dropped. He scrolled back a few seconds. The feed showed him waving. Once normally, then again, slower like an echo. But he hadn't done it twice. His viewers spammed laughing emojis, chalking it up to tech hiccups. Evan forced a chuckle. "Yeah, seems like we've got a little ghost in the machine tonight. Don't worry, I'll get it fixed." The rest of the stream went smoothly. Almost too smoothly. He ended the session, but something gnawed at the back of his mind. He couldn't shake the image of his reflection moving a fraction slower, as though it were thinking for itself. 2 nights later, he decided to run another private test. Midnight. The house was quiet, the neighborhood dark. His only light came from the monitors and the soft lamp behind him. He pressed go live. The camera hummed, the feed flickered on, and there he was again, staring at himself. For the first 5 minutes, everything was fine. He leaned forward, scribbled notes, adjusted the mic perfectly mirrored. Then his reflection blinked. He hadn't. Evan froze, breath caught in his throat. His reflection stared at him calmly, eyes a fraction too wide, then blinked once more, slowly, deliberately. He spun around, half expecting someone to be in the room. But of course it was empty. When he turned back, the reflection was perfectly normal again, copying his movements. mirroring every gesture. His skin prickled with sweat. "I'm losing it," he whispered. But when he reviewed the save stream afterward, the extra blink was gone. The footage showed nothing unusual at all. The following week, his streams grew. More viewers, more chat messages. His community buzzed with excitement at his consistency. But every time he went live, Evan found himself watching the monitor more than the camera, watching for the subtle glitches. They came without pattern. Sometimes a delayed blink, sometimes a hand lingering too long. Once, he swore his reflection smiled when he hadn't. His viewers noticed too. "What's with your camera, dude? Your face lagged like crazy just now. Is this an ARG or something?" He laughed it off, blamed software bugs. But the pit in his stomach grew heavier each time. The moment that truly rattled him came late one Friday. He was wrapping up a stream, telling his audience goodnight. "All right, guys, that's it for me. Catch you next time." He lifted a hand in farewell. On the monitor, his reflection didn't wave. Instead, it leaned closer to the camera. Closer, until its face filled the frame, eyes locked onto his. The stream cut abruptly to black. His chat erupted, spamming question marks, confusion, panic. But Evan sat frozen at his desk, his own face bathed in the glow of the monitor. He hadn't moved. Evan didn't sleep that night. He sat at his desk, staring at the blank monitor long after the stream ended, trying to convince himself that what he saw was just another glitch. Software hiccups, compression errors, a drop frame at the wrong second. But glitches didn't lean forward on their own. Glitches didn't look back at you. The next morning, he woke to dozens of messages, screenshots from his viewers, snippets clipped from the final seconds of stream. They all showed the same thing. His reflection pushing closer and closer to the lens until its eye filled the frame. One message chilled him most. "Dude, I saw its lips move." It said something. Evan didn't watch the clip again. He couldn't. Instead, he told himself it was time to step away. No streaming for a while. No staring into cameras. Just normal life. But normal life didn't last long. 3 nights later, at exactly 12:17 a.m., his phone buzzed with a notification. "Your channel is live." His blood went cold. He hadn't gone live. His computer wasn't even on. Heart racing, he clicked the link. The stream was real. Viewers were already gathering, commenting wildly. "Late night stream? Let's go. Is this pre-recorded? Why does he look so stiff?" The camera feed showed his room, his chair, his desk, and him, Evan, sitting at the computer. Only he wasn't there. He was standing in his kitchen, phone in hand, staring at the stream in disbelief. On screen, his double sat perfectly still, eyes locked on the camera. Not blinking, not moving. The chat exploded. "Bro, you good?" He's been staring for like 2 minutes straight, kinda creepy TBH. Evan stumbled back, nearly dropping his phone. He rushed into his studio, heart hammering. The room was empty. No lights, no camera running. But on the stream, his double remained, unmoving, watching. Then slowly it smiled. The feed went black. Evan collapsed into his chair, breath shallow. He spent the rest of the night pacing, unplugging every device in the room, checking and rechecking that nothing was secretly recording. The computer was off. The camera was unplugged. Everything was dead. Still, he couldn't shake the image. His own face, sitting there, alive without him. The next morning, he opened his email to find dozens of new subscribers. His audience had doubled overnight. Clips of the Phantom stream were spreading across forums. Titles read, "Is this real? Creepiest live stream glitch ever." He didn't want fame like this. But fame didn't ask permission. Over the next week, more Phantom streams appeared. Always after midnight. Always showing him. Sometimes just sitting at his desk. Sometimes walking slowly around the room. Sometimes leaning so close to the camera, his eyes filled the frame. And every time, Evan wasn't there. He would wake up to messages, screenshots, and clips that made his stomach twist. In one, his double stood in the corner of the room, his face hidden in shadow. The chat had begged him to move, to say something, but he never did. He just stood there, unmoving, until the stream ended. In another, the double whispered. The audio was faint, garbled, but some viewers swore they heard words. Others said it was just static. The most recent clip made him feel physically sick. It showed his double sitting at the desk, staring into the camera, lips moving slowly. A viewer with audio software enhanced the sound and shared the result. The voice was low, distorted, but the words were clear enough. "He's watching too." Evan shut his laptop and couldn't bring himself to open it again for 2 days. But hiding didn't help. The phantom streams kept coming, each one pulling more viewers. His channel grew faster than it ever had when he was in control. And with growth came speculation. Some said it was a genius marketing stunt. Others were convinced it was paranormal. A few claimed they saw things in the background of his room during the streams. Shapes that didn't belong, shadows that moved independently. One comment made his hands shake as he read it. Look at the mirror behind him. The reflection isn't the same. He hadn't noticed it before. A small decorative mirror hung on the far wall of his studio, mostly out of frame. But in the clips, viewers pointed out subtle differences. Sometimes the mirror showed him smiling when he wasn't. Sometimes it showed him standing when he was seated. Once, for only a single frame, it didn't show him at all, but something else instead. Something tall. Something standing closer to the camera than it should have been. The comments grew darker. "This isn't a glitch. It's not him. Don't watch the streams too long." Evan stopped reading after that. He couldn't bear it. But curiosity was a cruel thing. One night, unable to sleep, he clicked on a re-upload of the most recent phantom stream. The video opened on his studio. His double sat at the desk, staring silently. For long stretches, he didn't move. The footage was suffocatingly still, as if even the air refused to shift. Then, around the 18-minute mark, something changed. His double's head turned, slowly, deliberately, toward the mirror on the wall. And in the mirror, Evan saw himself. Not the double, not the silent, stiff figure at the desk, but him, Evan, standing in the kitchen, phone in hand, watching. The double smiled. The mirror Evan didn't. The stream ended. Evan slammed his laptop shut, his whole body trembling. He pressed his hands to his face, trying to convince himself it was a trick of the eye, a digital artifact, anything but what it looked like. But deep down, he knew the streams weren't just glitches. They weren't just showing him. They were showing something else. Something watching him from the other side of the screen. And the longer he let them run, the closer it got. Evan stopped leaving the blinds open. Every night, the phantom streams grew bolder, and every morning he woke to hundreds of comments dissecting them frame by frame. He felt like his life was being picked apart by strangers who knew more about what was happening than he did. He hadn't streamed willingly in weeks, yet the channel was more active than ever. His subscriber count had tripled. Every new phantom broadcast appeared without warning, often when he was asleep, and ended just as abruptly. And each time, it showed a slightly different version of him. The first few had been subtle. He was seated, stiff, staring. But lately, the differences were impossible to ignore. In one, he was pacing the room, muttering words too faint to hear. In another, he sat at the desk with his head buried in his hands, shoulders shaking as though he were crying. And in one disturbing clip, he appeared to be asleep in his chair, until his eyes suddenly opened wide, directly at the camera, unblinking for the remaining 15 minutes. Evan watched that last one only once. The memory was enough to keep him awake for nights afterward. The comments grew increasingly unnerving. This isn't the same guy. Every time his shirt changes between frames, he has scars on his hands in one vid that aren't there in the next. These are like different versions of him. He had laughed bitterly at first. Alternate versions? Multiverse nonsense? Internet paranoia. But then the bruises appeared. One morning, Evan noticed a dark mark blooming across his wrist. He didn't remember hitting it on anything, but maybe he had. He brushed it off. The next day, he woke with a small cut across his knuckle. Again, no memory of how it happened. On the third day, he logged into his channel against his better judgment. The newest phantom stream was already trending. He clicked play, heart pounding. There he was, seated at the desk. But this version of him fidgeted constantly, wringing his hands, scratching at his wrist. The skin grew redder, rawer, until a bruise formed in real time. The same bruise that now colored Evan's wrist. His stomach lurched. He slammed the laptop shut and ran to the bathroom, splashing cold water on his face. He studied himself in the mirror, searching for more changes. But mirrors weren't safe anymore. For a split second, the reflection didn't follow. His reflection's mouth twitched upward, almost a smile, before snapping back into place. Evan staggered backward, knocking over a cup. He avoided the bathroom after that. The streams continued. Every night, everyone different. Sometimes he was calm, sometimes frantic, sometimes eerily serene. Once, he stood in the corner facing the wall for nearly 20 minutes, motionless like a child in punishment. Each broadcast felt less like surveillance and more like preview, as if he weren't watching recordings of himself, but possibilities, fragments of paths his life might take. And worse, those possibilities were bleeding through. The bruises, the cut, the growing insomnia, matching the sleepless, wide-eyed versions of himself that stared into the lens. One afternoon, desperate for answers, Evan scoured the forums discussing his dreams. Among the noise of jokes and theories, one post caught his attention. These aren't glitches. You're seeing bleed-throughs, streams from adjacent timelines. Every decision you make splits. Every version of you exists. Some platforms can catch the signal, but if you're broadcasting them, it means they can see you back. Evan's throat went dry. He read the comment over and over, trying to dismiss it. Just internet roleplay. Some creep capitalizing on the hype. But then he saw the username, Evan_live. His own name, his own profile picture. And he hadn't written it. He deleted the post instantly, but the damage was done. He couldn't shake the thought, what if there were other versions of him out there, just as real, bleeding into his feed? And if they could stream into his world, what was stopping them from stepping further? The next Phantom broadcast nearly proved it. It was late, 2:41 a.m., when Evan's phone buzzed. He was half asleep, but the notification jolted him upright. Another stream. He clicked the link, bracing himself. This time, the feed opened not on his studio, but his bedroom. The camera was angled from the corner of the ceiling, as though mounted there, watching him. And there he was, sleeping in bed, body curled beneath the blanket. Evan's heart pounded. He wasn't in bed. He was sitting in the kitchen, phone clutched in shaking hands, watching the stream of himself sleeping. Then on the feed, his sleeping body stirred, rolled over, opened its eyes. The figure in bed sat up slowly, stared directly into the camera, and smiled. The chat exploded with terrified messages. How? Is he streaming from his bedroom? Bro literally woke up in the stream. He's looking at us. OMG, Evan dropped the phone. It clattered across the kitchen floor, screen still glowing. He pressed his palms to his face, heart hammering so loud it drowned everything else. He didn't dare pick the phone up again. Didn't dare watch what happened next. When the stream ended, he sat alone in the dark, trembling. That night, he didn't sleep at all. Not in his bed. Not anywhere. He couldn't. Because what if, when he closed his eyes, the stream would show something else? Not just possibilities, but outcomes. Evan's apartment didn't feel like his anymore. The walls pressed too close, the air too thin, the mirrors too unreliable. He unplugged every device, taped over every lens, even draped blankets across the reflective surfaces. But the Phantom streams kept coming, and they no longer showed only him. The first time, he nearly missed it. He was skimming through re-uploads of the latest broadcast, compulsively, against his better judgment, when a comment caught his eye. Pause at 12:43. Look at the corner. He did, and his stomach dropped. The camera was angled at his desk, where his double sat stiff and silent. But in the corner of the frame, barely within the shadows, stood something else. Tall, motionless, not shaped quite right. Its head tilted, too long, too narrow, like a mask stretched over the wrong bones. It didn't move. It didn't need to. Its presence was enough. Evan slammed the laptop shut and sat frozen in silence. The image lingered behind his eyelids, and when he finally dared to open the computer again, the video had been deleted. By who, he didn't know, but the streams kept escalating. The next one drew nearly 20,000 viewers, the numbers climbing like wildfire. Evan didn't watch it live. He couldn't. But clips flooded his inbox, messages from strangers demanding to know if he was safe. In the footage, his double sat slumped at the desk, eyes vacant. And behind him, reflected faintly in the mirror, was the figure again. This time closer. Its face, if it could be called that, hovered inches from his reflection's shoulder. The outline of its mouth seemed to curl into something like a grin. The chat had gone frantic. Someone call him, "What is that thing? It moved, but Evan hadn't been there. He'd been asleep on his couch, restless and dreamless. When he woke, his phone was vibrating nonstop with missed calls. His inbox overflowed with screenshots, theories, warnings. And one message chilled him most. It wasn't just in the stream. "Look behind you." Evan refused to check. He sat on the couch until sunrise, too afraid to look at the darkened studio doorway. Days bled together after that. He tried to leave the apartment once, but the world outside felt wrong. Too bright, too loud, as though reality itself had grown hostile. People recognized him now, whispered when he passed. Someone even asked for a photo, joking about the creepy stream guy. He didn't smile for the picture. The streams grew stranger. In one, his double whispered to the camera for 20 straight minutes. The audio was garbled, almost mechanical, but viewers claimed to hear their own names hidden in the static. In another, he wasn't in frame at all. The camera pointed at his empty studio. Silent. Still. Until, in the final moments, the tall figure drifted across the lens. Not walking. Gliding. The internet erupted. Paranormal forums dissected each frame. Tech blogs debated whether it was an elaborate hoax. Skeptics called it performance art. But none of them had to live inside it. None of them felt the weight of unseen eyes in every shadow. Evan stopped checking the clips. But he couldn't stop the streams. One night, at 3:12 a.m., he woke to his phone buzzing again. Against his own better judgment, he clicked the link. The feed opened on his bedroom. The angle was wrong, too high, as though the camera floated near the ceiling. He was there, asleep in bed. His chest rose and fell. The blankets shifted faintly, but there was something else. The tall figure stood beside the bed, watching. The chat went berserk. Is this staged? Holy, it's right there, wake up, wake up, wake up. Evan's blood ran cold. He wasn't asleep. He was awake, sitting at the kitchen table, phone in hand, watching himself sleep with the figure looming over him. Then the double in bed stirred, opened its eyes, turned its head toward the figure, and smiled. The stream cut to black. Evan dropped the phone, breath ragged, heart hammering so hard it hurt. He stared at the dark kitchen doorway, half expecting the figure to emerge. But nothing came. Not yet. The next morning, he found scratches on the bedroom wall. Long vertical, deep enough to gouge the paint. He didn't remember making them. That evening, while scrolling through yet another forum, he found a thread titled, "What's Behind Him?" It contained screenshots from dozens of streams, layered together. The figure wasn't random. It was consistent. Always in the same position. Always closer, frame by frame, as though inching toward the lens. One user had enhanced the images. The result made Evan's skin crawl. The figure's face wasn't a mask. It was his own, stretched, distorted, smiling too wide. His vision blurred. His stomach churned. He slammed the laptop shut and staggered away from the desk. But the thought burrowed deep. What if the figure wasn't separate at all? What if it was him? Another version. One the streams had been feeding. And what if it wanted more than to be seen? Evan no longer trusted silence. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the refrigerator, every faint rustle of the curtains could have been something else. Something watching. Something waiting. The streams had infected more than his devices. They had infected him. He tried cutting the internet, canceled his provider, smashed the router with a hammer until it was nothing but twisted plastic and wire. But the phantom broadcasts didn't stop. The notifications still came. The viewers still grew. The night after destroying the router, he woke to find his laptop open on the kitchen table. He hadn't touched it. The screen glowed with another stream. Already ended, already uploaded. He didn't watch. Couldn't. But the comments were enough. Why is he talking to himself? There are two of him now, look closely. His reflection isn't synced. Evan slammed the lid shut, heart thundering. Two of him. The words clung to him like static. The following evening, he tested a theory. He set up his phone to record himself, not live, just a simple offline video. He sat at the desk, stared into the lens, counted to 30. Then he replayed it and froze. In the recording, his reflection in the darkened window behind him moved half a second late. A delayed echo, sometimes smiling when he wasn't, sometimes blinking when he didn't. Evan felt his skin crawl. He grabbed the phone and hurled it across the room. The screen cracked but kept glowing, the frozen frame of his other self grinning faintly in the glass. That night he dreamed. He was back in his studio chair, the air heavy, the silence pressing in. Across from him sat himself. Or almost. The copy's eyes were too sharp, too bright, the smile stretched just a little too wide. "You're doing so well," it whispered. The voice was his but not. Flattened, distorted, like audio through broken speakers. "They love you." Evan shook his head, tried to speak, but no words came. "They don't want him," the copy said, tilting its head toward him. "They want me." And with that, the double leaned forward, its face splitting into static, the features glitching, shifting, collapsing into something tall, stretched, inhuman. Evan woke, gasping, drenched in sweat, throat raw as if he'd been screaming. The dream didn't stay a dream. Over the next week, the phantom streams showed not just one Evan, but two. One sat still, pale, lifeless, while the other paced, muttering. Sometimes they switched places. Sometimes they merged, overlapping until the image stuttered and tore. The chat flooded with confusion and awe. Which one's real? This is the best ARG I've ever seen. The one on the left blinked wrong. Evan stopped sleeping altogether. Coffee and adrenaline kept him upright, but his body dragged like lead. He caught glimpses of movement in the corners of his vision, his own silhouette ducking out of sight. The worst came one afternoon. He stood in front of the covered mirror in his hallway, debating whether to rip the blanket down and finally confront whatever it showed. His hands trembled. His chest heaved. Then, from behind the fabric, came a voice. His voice. "Why are you hiding from me?" Evan staggered back. The cloth rippled as though someone pressed against it from the other side. A hand-shaped bulge emerged, dragging slowly across the fabric. He bolted, spent the night locked in his bedroom, clutching a lamp like a weapon, staring at the door. The streams continued regardless. He no longer needed to open them. Viewers sent him screenshots, clips, frantic messages. The streams were bleeding into daily life, showing events seconds before they happened. In one, he was seen spilling a glass of water. Hours later, he did. In another, he was seen answering the phone. That evening it rang. The broadcasts weren't possibilities anymore. They were rehearsals, scripts, and he was following them. The line between watching and being watched thinned to nothing. Evan felt it every time he moved, as though someone, something, waited to see if he'd follow the script. He tested it once. The latest stream showed him sitting at his desk, turning left. So he turned right instead. A chill rippled through the room. The lights flickered. The air dropped 10 degrees. And then, in the blank black screen of his laptop, his reflection smiled, though his real mouth hadn't moved. Evan stumbled backward, panic flooding every nerve. He realized the truth he had been denying. The streams weren't showing his choices. They were forcing them, leading him. Each broadcast was a chain, tightening with every frame. He wasn't the broadcaster. He was the broadcast. That night, lying awake on the couch, he heard it again. His own voice, whispering from the dark corner of the room. "You can't fight it." He turned his head, pulse roaring in his ears. The faint outline of himself stood there, watching, smiling. For the first time, Evan screamed. Evan hadn't stepped outside in days. The world beyond his door felt less real than the one inside his apartment, where shadows whispered and screens flickered with versions of him that no longer belonged. He stopped eating full meals, stopped answering his phone, stopped pretending this was something he could simply turn off. Because there was nothing left to turn off. The streams came whether he wanted them or not. Even unplugged devices glowed to life. Even black screens reflected faces he hadn't made. Reality wasn't fractured. It was being rewritten, and he was both author and prisoner. He sat at his desk, exhausted, waiting for the next broadcast. The air buzzed faintly, like static filling every corner of the room. When the notification chimed, he didn't flinch. He opened the laptop. The stream had already begun. But this time, the feed wasn't delayed. It wasn't ahead. It was exact. Frame for frame. Every movement mirrored his own in real time. He lifted his hand. The image lifted. He blinked. It blinked. Perfect synchronicity. Relief rushed through him. At last, the glitch was gone. Maybe it had burned itself out. The strange overlap finally corrected. He almost laughed, almost believed, until the reflection kept smiling after his own lips fell still. The grin stretched wider. Teeth bared. Eyes brightened into something feverish, hungry. Evan recoiled, but the figure didn't. It leaned closer, pressing its face against the inside of the screen, breath fogging the glass. The chat exploded with comments. Did you see that? He's splitting again. This feels different, like it's not a stream anymore. It's a window. Evan slammed the laptop shut. The room fell silent, but not empty. From the dark window beside him, a faint reflection smiled back. He backed away, stumbling over the chair, gasping for air. His heart felt like it might tear itself out of his chest. The window's reflection didn't mimic his movements anymore. It stood still, watching. Then it raised one hand, slowly, deliberately against the glass, and the glass bulged inward. Evan froze. The pane warped like thin plastic, bending under invisible pressure. A handprint formed on his side of the glass, pale and sharp. "No," Evan whispered, shaking his head. "No, you're not real." But the hand pressed harder, cracks spiderwebbing across the glass. The laptop burst back to life on the desk, opening on its own. The stream resumed, showing not just Evan, not just the reflection, but the whole room, viewed from a corner where no camera stood. And in the feed, the reflection wasn't behind a glass anymore. It was inside the room, standing right behind him. The chat flooded. "It's in there with him. Turn around." "Oh God, oh God, oh God," Evan spun, lamp raised like a weapon. The room was empty. His chest heaved. His vision swam. But on the laptop, his double remained, taller, thinner, smiling wider than a human face should allow. It tilted its head, studying him like prey. Evan lunged forward, slamming the lid shut again, yanking the cord from the wall. The screen went black. He stood there shaking, lamp still raised, breath shallow. And then, from the silence, his own voice whispered right behind his ear. "Your turn." He spun. Nothing. Just shadows. Just the hum of the fridge in the other room. But when he looked back at the laptop, it was open again, streaming. And this time, the figure on the screen wasn't him anymore. It was the viewers. Hundreds, thousands of faces distorted and warped, leaning through the feed as though staring into his apartment. All of them watching. All of them smiling. Evan stumbled backward until his spine hit the wall. The camera followed, shifting without moving, tracking his every step. The chat messages blurred into a single command, repeated over and over in perfect rhythm. "Let him and let him and let him and let him and let him." And Evan pressed his hands to his ears, squeezed his eyes shut, tried to block it out. But the chant wasn't just on the screen anymore. It was in the room. A low, resonant vibration, shaking the walls, rattling the floor. He opened his eyes. The reflection stood inches from him now, not in the screen, not in the glass, but in the flesh. Taller, stretched, smiling too wide. Its hand reached forward, his hand, palm open. Evan didn't move. Couldn't. His body felt caught between fight and surrender, paralyzed by the inevitability of it all. The reflection leaned close, its breath cold against his skin. And then, in perfect unison, they both whispered the same words. "We are live." The screen went black. The stream ended. The channel never uploaded again. But the archived videos remained, replayed endlessly by fascinated viewers. They dissected every detail, every glitch, every impossible reflection. Some swore you could still see Evan in the background of newer live streams, other people's live streams, standing silently in the corner, waiting. And if you linger too long on any pause frame, sometimes, just sometimes, the reflection blinks when you don't.